Hello. Happy New Year, everyone. I am super late to filming this video because it's just, that's just how it is. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite reads of 2019, and I didn't want to do like 10 or 15 or anything like super long and extensive because I never know when to shut up and it makes editing way too long. So because I only did 7 books for the worst reads of 2019, which if you haven't seen, I'll put it up here so you can check it out. But because I did 7 books there, I feel like I should do 7 books here, okay? And I'll do like some honorable mentions, but I won't go into depths of the books that are honorable mentions. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is Princess Jellyfish, and it follows our MC. She does not like to interact with people. She gets really anxious. She lives in a house full of women that are similar to her, and they really just stay to themselves and they're comfortable with being around each other, but they tend to not go outside if they don't have to and not interact with people if they don't have to. But she loves jellyfish, and one day when she's out at night, she ends up seeing one that's in danger, and someone that's walking by ends up helping her help the jellyfish that was in danger, and she thinks that after that encounter they'll never interact again. The person that she meets that night ends up wanting to be her friend, so it follows a journey of a new friendship and stuff like that. I love this graphic novel so much, and I think it was because it was so simple and because it was so funny. Like, I feel like the girls in this book had me dying laughing because just like their social anxiety and just like how like anti-people they are and how they don't want to be around people that are like super fashionable or super pretty or whatever. They like to just stay in the house and have their little hobbies and be friends with each other, and anytime they have to go into like a social environment they don't like it. I just really love like the fashion that one of the characters have in this book. I loved like how simple the pictures and everything were. I love the play on gender norms. Like it really picked apart gender normality and how you only have to confine to gender if you allow it. So I actually watched the dub version on YouTube and I absolutely loved it. It's just even more funny. I just really love this. I don't know if it's a graphic novel or a comic book. Like, I never know what to put it as. Graphic novel, comic book, manga. Like, I don't know what it is because I'm not big on, I don't know what to categorize it as, but I absolutely loved it. I loved the characters. I loved like how funny the MC was. I love Jellyfish, so I just could relate to her like 100%. I just thought that the characters were super funny. I love the dialogue, I love the fashion, I love the simplicity of it. I love how sassy one of the characters are, and I'm really excited to like continue on with the series. Okay, so the next book that I have is Moto Crush, and it follows the MC. Her name is Domino, and she is a very well-known racer. She participates in professional racing, but then she also does street racing in the city. A lot of the racers that do it professionally or do it illegally, they use this engine boosting serum that's called Crush, and the people that control the city are trying to get rid of it, but she actually needs it to survive. Like, she's been using it as a part of her inhaler for a very long time, and it kind of reveals that she doesn't really know who she is or where she came from because she was brought up by her adopted father and he never really told her where she came from. But as the story goes on, you learn more about her as a racer and her unknown background story, and I love this so much. I don't know, I feel like this book deserves more recognition. I was so confused as to why it didn't get more hype, and I talked about it on book Twitter, and everybody was saying like, oh, if it was like a white male MC and it was a male love interest, booktube would be all over it. And honestly, I would have to say that I agree with that, because I could see the MC being like a white male MC. Like, if it was a male romance, I feel like booktube would be all over it. But I feel like because this character is black, a female romance, in a way I feel like it gets less recognition, unfortunately. But that's a whole nother topic. We're gonna talk about why I love this book. So I love this book because I just love Domino. I thought she was like she was really complex, and she was really trying to figure out who she was as a person and discovering more about her background story and where she came from. And I just love the style, the art in this. Oh, I just love the art in this book so much. I think I'm starting to get more into graphic novels because I can visually see like the art and stuff. Like, I'm more of a visual person, and I like having like the idea in my head of what a book or character looks like. I love the storyline. It was really simple, but the first and the second one I really enjoyed. I liked all the characters in the book. I just loved it so much. I feel like it would be really cool to see as like a TV show or something like that, or a cartoon adaptation, but I feel like it's gonna get even more intense, and I'm just like dying inside because it was the third volume was supposed to come out in July, and they moved it to, I think, like next year in like March or something like that. So I'm like dying inside because they just pushed the publishing date, and I was waiting and waiting and waiting. So I'm still waiting. So yeah, I just really love the MC. I love the storyline. I love like the found family idea of like the way that her father, like her adopted father, cares for her. The female romance is very confusing because I don't even know, they already broke up and they don't even really talk to each other, so that's like a whole different thing. But I feel like they're gonna just like rekindle that love, and I'm really excited to see where the third volume takes it and what else Domino has in store. So the next book that I have on my list of favorites is The Poet X, and this book follows the MC. Her name is Ziomata, and she is discovering the world of poetry and like verse. So she's learning to express herself. She learns how to talk about her problems through verse. It really picks apart like gender biases within the Spanish culture, religion, parents, family, friends. It's set in New York, so you can really feel that atmosphere, and just like her whole vibe is just so strong. I just love that character so much, and I listened to a majority of it on audiobook. I started reading it physically, but then everyone was telling me like the author does the audiobook, so I picked up the audiobook and I loved it so much. I definitely suggest the audiobook if you decide to pick this one up because the author did such a good job. The entire book is in verse, so it's really quick to read. This book was like a comfort to me because I have a lot of similarities to this character because she's struggling with her body image and the fact that people are depicting her a certain way just because of the way that she's shaped, something that she has absolutely no control over, which is the same problem that I had growing up. It wasn't my fault, like that's just the way that my body was shaped, and so she deals a lot with that, just the way that the world views her and expectations within her family, the things that she has to do as a woman versus her brother having to not do, the rules that she has to follow versus her brother not having to follow. Her household is extremely religious, and she struggles with that because she's trying to understand the idea of religion and if she agrees with it. I just really love the main character, just how she figured everything out and how she was like unapologetically herself. And even though people would say that she was too strong or she had too much attitude or she was too much of this or too much of that, she stayed true to herself, and I really admired that, and it was like a comfort to me because I dealt with a lot of the things that she dealt with in this book, and it was just really nice, especially because it was in verse and I grew up on poetry because my mom's a poet. I really drew a strong comfort to this MC. If you haven't picked it up, definitely give it a read. So the next book that I have, I've already talked about this book, I feel like on numerous occasions. I actually have a whole review about the book, and I'll link it up here if you want to check it out. The next book that I have is To Kill a Kingdom, and this book follows a siren. Her tradition is to kill princes and take their hearts on each of her birthdays. One of the traditions goes wrong. Her mother banishes her from the sea world and sets her out on the land, and the only way that she can come back is if she gets the heart of a prince without any magical abilities, because sirens are able to sing to people and make them fall in love with them and distract them and put them into this haze where it's easier for them to kill. But her mother took away all of her magical abilities, and the person that ends up rescuing her once she's banished to land is one of the most well-known siren killers. So yeah, she ends up having to go onto his ship, being a part of his crew, and the entire time she's just trying to kill him, okay? But she ends up getting comfortable with the crew and drawing a friendship with a lot of them, slowly forming like you know, it's gonna turn into a hate to love romance, okay? Hate to love. I love this book so much just because like it was so simple. It was simple, it was full of like banter, it had like a ton, the friendship group, like the pirate crew, I just love them so much. Each of them had different personalities and different roles within the ship. Them all together as like a friendship group I really enjoyed. I also enjoyed the play on royalty. The pirate prince is set to be a king, but it's not a lifestyle that he wants, and he struggles with that a lot internally. And while he's struggling with that, she's starting to see that the way that she was brought up was extremely like hateful for no reason, so she's struggling with her own identity. So both of them are separately struggling with the way that they view the world and what they want in life. And the friendship thing was, the whole friendship vibe was just like my favorite part. The pirate prince and the siren, I love them so much together. Like you felt the hate, but you also felt like the way it was melting away. I think this is probably one of my favorite books of all time now, because, and this makes me so happy because I remember reading it and I was like, I wasn't in a reading slump, but I was just kind of bored with some of the books that I was reading, and I picked this one up and I remember like finishing it, and I think in like 2 days or like one sitting or something like that. I remember just like cramming myself into like a room and just like flying through it because it was so good and I loved it so much. It was just such a good time, and I just loved it so much, and it's definitely one of my favorite books of all time. Aside from just this year, it's just one of my favorite books of all time, and I kind of want to reread it because I just want to re-experience it. And I think it was this author's debut, so she doesn't have any other books that are out right now, so your girl is struggling. I'm excited to see what else she comes out with and if I will enjoy her other books, but yeah, it's one of my favorites. So the next book that I have on my list is God's Grave, and I'm not going to really talk too much about what this specific book is about because it's the second book in a series, so I'll just tell you about what the first book is about. This whole series is the Nevernight series, and it follows the main character. Her name is Mia, and she's trained her whole life to prep and get ready to go to a school of assassins so that she can avenge the death of her parents. So Mia also has powers over shadows, and that is her magical ability. She doesn't really know where she got it from, and throughout the story she's also trying to figure out where that came from. The second book was so good. Sometimes when you read a series, you can just feel that second book slump where it's just like dragging along and you're hating every second of it and you want it to be over because you feel like the next book is going to be better. The second book in the series, honestly, in my opinion, was the best one. It was so fast paced. There was less footnotes, because if you've read the Nevernight series, you know that it has footnotes, which is one of the things that I hated about these damn books. But the footnotes are easier to consume if you listen to it on audiobook, so if you struggle with that, definitely pick up the audiobook. It was the perfect amount of pace, it was the perfect amount of death and blood and gore and battles and just character development. Like, she developed so much as a character. She got more strong and more powerful, but she stayed true to herself, even with like new reveals and new things that were happening. And just like the plots in the book were so great. Like, honestly, the plots were just like minuscule throughout the book, but when you got to the end, J. Kristoff, he really waits to the last damn page. Like, usually it's like within the last few chapters you start seeing the plot start switching on you and you can feel that cliffhanger coming, but he will wait until the last like 5 pages to just throw these random things at you, and you're just like what happened? And honestly, that was my favorite part because it's been a while since a book really shocked the shit out of me, and that book had me with my mouth like wide open. I loved it so much. It was the best one. Dark Dawn kind of was a letdown for me, but we're not going to talk about Dark Dawn. We're talking about God's Grave. God's Grave was phenomenal, okay? If you have not picked up that book, or if you have not started the Nevernight series, definitely start it, please. If you
not the last forever.
Wait, where's my remote? Okay. Yeah, I don't know why my CD player just started playing. Clearly my room knows I want to listen to BTS, but it's fine. So the next book that I have on my list is There's Something About Sweetie. This book follows the love story of Ashish and Sweetie, who are put together by their parents, and their parents are picking the dates for them, and it's just so cute. And the MC, Sweetie, she is a fat girl, so there is fat girl rep in this book, and I just loved this book so much. My favorite thing about this author is the way that she writes female characters. Like, she always has them, they're just such strong, intelligent, morally and worldly aware female MCs. They're so strong in their willpower and what they want, and it's just like so admirable. Even though I'm pretty sure they were in high school, it still was something to admire. So a lot of her books are set in like high school or young adult, but I still look up to the characters that she has in her books because of the way that she depicts them. And my favorite part of this whole book was Sweetie, because she dealt with a lot of prejudices against her weight and her size and all the stereotypes people had against her, and the idea that being fat means being unhealthy. Because she was a runner, she loves running, and she was actually really good at it, and no matter what she did, how she did it, it's just the way that her body was shaped, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And honestly, it's your business. That's the thing. Like, whether you're fat and healthy or fat and unhealthy, that's your business. It's nobody's place to tell you the way that you should be shaped, what you should be doing with your time, what you should be doing, how you should look. And she completely picked apart the way that everyone viewed her, and even though at sometimes it was hard to read the things that she had to deal with, it was very interesting to see the way that she dealt with it. And I feel like she was a really strong character, and I just loved her so much. I also really enjoyed the love interest. Like, just their whole romance together was really sweet. It was really innocent, and I just really loved it. I really loved the friendship setting as well, because they each had their little friend groups. I just loved both of the characters separately and together, and it was just a really good read. So if you haven't picked it up, pick it up. Okay. And the final book that I have for my favorites of 2019 is Children of Virtue and Vengeance, and this book is the second book in the Children of Blood and Bone series, and it's one of my favorite series of all time, okay? Of all time. So this book follows the MC Zaylee, who lives in a world full of hate against her own people, and her people are the Magi, all of them. Her ability is the control of spirits and death, and then there's burners, there's seers, there's all different types of people within the Magi clan. The king of Arisha is completely against magic dwellers and their abilities, and he feels like they're too powerful. The series follows her determined to find out more about her magical powers and bring magic back to Arisha so that they can just live a more peaceful life, finding a peaceful setting for the Magi without them having to deal with raids and the corruption of power. I'm just trying to think about how to explain it without spoiling anything, so I think I did a pretty good job, I guess. I don't know. This is the second book in the series, and this book frustrated the shit out of me. This book really brought out the emotions, okay? I read like 95% physically, because when I got towards the end, I listened to the last few chapters on audiobook because I didn't know it was on, I had it on audiobook. So I scooped that up for the last like hour or so. But for this one, I just think that reading it physically really brought out the emotions. It frustrated me so much because the main character, Zaylee, she deals with even more traumatic drama and just like things going wrong within her life, and it made me so upset because she's my favorite character, and it really hurt me to see her have to go through even more traumatic experiences. Just seeing the way that the second book really shows more of the magic system and the different magical abilities, and there was more characters, there was more chaos. Like, all the people in the royal settings were just like aggravating the hell out of me. I wanted to fight all of them. Amari made me want to backhand her, but I love the book, okay? Don't get me wrong, I love the book. I just love the atmosphere. Like, this is one of these books that you read and you just like constantly flipping the pages and you don't even realize how far you've gotten because you just feel like you're really a part of the world. And I just love the writing so much. The chapters were perfectly paced. They were the perfect length too. Like, she really made these chapters short, and I just loved it so much because I would just like turn the page and be on a new chapter, and it's like an accomplishment. She just really outdid herself with this book, and I'm really excited to see where she takes the series. And this book was the last book that I read for 2019, and I just stopped. Like, as soon as I finished that book, all the emotions that it brought out of me after finishing that book, I was just like, okay, I'm frustrated, but I'm happy, and I just want to leave my reading year on a good note, so I just left it there. Like, I didn't read anything else for the next like 2 or 3 weeks after I finished that book. You can tell that she's going to be a really good author. I'm really proud of like how much she's grown writing. It's going to be adapted into like a movie, I think, so I'm really excited to see. Oh, I'm so excited to see who the actors are going to be and just like the atmosphere. I'm just fangirling. This is like one of my books that I just fangirl about so much. And if you haven't seen, I did cosplay Zaylee, so I'll leave that right there. Make sure you give it a like on Instagram. Follow your girl. Thank you. That is all of my books that were my favorite for 2019. So a few of the other ones that were my favorites, but I don't want to talk about them in depth, is Circe, The Song of Achilles, Daisy Jones and the Six, On the Come Up, You, The Unhoneymooners, A Curse So Dark and Lonely, The Tea Dragon Society, Radio Silence, Red, White, and Royal Blue. Those were also some of my favorite reads of 2019. I just didn't want to go into depths because this video would be way too long. So I hope everybody's having a great New Year's. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you don't know what to comment at the end of my video, just leave the little pink hearts. Okay? Always remember, read a book, keep your life interesting, and I will see you next time. Bye. Happy New Year.